Just 6 hours after we buried my father, my stepmother screamed, "Get out of my house." She threw his framed photo at me. I ducked, watching it shatter against the wall, his smiling face now fractured behind broken glass. I stood frozen in our San Francisco Victorian home's entryway, still wearing my black funeral dress, as Victoria pointed toward the door, her mascara-streaked face twisted with rage. My stepsisters Amber and Paige smirked behind her, already dividing my belongings with their eyes. "This is my father's house," I said, my voice barely audible. "I grew up here." Victoria laughed, a harsh, cruel sound that echoed off the high ceilings. "Not anymore. Richard left everything to us. Check the will." She slapped a document against my chest. "You have 20 minutes to pack essentials. The rest, we're donating." I scanned the papers, my hands trembling. Dad's signature looked wrong, too perfect, too straight. But grief clouded my judgment, and shock numbed my senses. I slowly climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom while they watched, triumphant. When I returned with a hastily packed suitcase, Victoria was already changing the security code on the front door. "Don't come back, Hannah," she hissed. "Your father finally saw you for the disappointment you are." I didn't answer. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out Dad's old pocket watch, the one thing I'd taken from his study drawer during those 20 minutes. Something about his whispered instructions during his final days kept replaying in my mind. "When the time comes, remember the watch." I held it up, and for the first time, Victoria's confident smile faltered. "That's not yours," Amber shrieked, lunging forward. I stepped back onto the porch, clutching the tarnished timepiece. "Actually, it is. Dad gave it to me last week." I turned and walked away, their shouts fading behind me as the door slammed shut. Only when I reached the corner did I let the tears fall, wondering how the worst day of my life had somehow gotten even worse. I had no home, almost no money, and a father who, if Victoria was to be believed, had cut me out of his life entirely. But I had his watch, and something told me that was exactly where I needed to start. The cheap motel bed squeaked as I sat cross-legged, examining Dad's pocket watch under the harsh, fluorescent light. For 3 days, I'd been calling rental agencies, updating my resume, and crying myself to sleep, all while trying to figure out why Dad had emphasized this old timepiece. It was nothing special, a tarnished silver case with subtle engravings, passed down from my grandfather. The face was cracked from when I'd accidentally dropped it as a child. Dad had never gotten it repaired, saying the crack gave it character. "Imperfections tell our real story, Hannah." I turned it over in my hands, feeling along the edges. The case seemed thicker than I remembered. When I pressed the crown at the top, the watch face opened normally, showing the stopped hands fixed at 3:47. But when I pressed it again, expecting nothing, a faint click surprised me. A hidden compartment in the back popped open, revealing a tightly folded piece of paper and a small brass key. My heart thundered as I carefully unfolded the paper, recognizing Dad's messy handwriting instantly. "Hannah, if you're reading this, they've already made their move. I'm sorry for what's happening. My illness progressed too quickly to fix everything properly. Don't trust Lawrence, our lawyer. Safe deposit box number 316 at First National on Montgomery Street. Take only what's inside and go immediately to Frank Davis. The key to everything is literally and figuratively in your hands. I love you. I always believed in you." Dad, I read it 3 times, my hands shaking harder with each pass. The clock on the nightstand showed 9:37 p.m., too late for the bank. But not too late to search online for this Frank Davis. 20 minutes later, I had nothing. San Francisco had dozens of Frank Davises, and without more information, I couldn't narrow it down. I would have to start with the safe deposit box tomorrow. Sleep came fitfully that night, my dreams filled with Victoria's cruel smile and the image of Dad's shattered picture. When morning finally broke, I was already dressed and waiting for the bank to open. "I'm sorry, Miss Baker, But I can't allow access to this box, the bank manager said, her expression professionally sympathetic. There's a hold on all of Mr. Baker's accounts and assets. I clutched the key in my pocket. This is my father's safe deposit box, and I have the key. Yes, but we received legal notification yesterday. All of Richard Baker's assets are frozen pending probate review. Orders from the executor of the estate. She slid a document across the desk. Lawrence Stevens, attorney at law. My father's warning echoed in my mind. Don't trust Lawrence. They had somehow discovered the box and moved to block me. But how? My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I excused myself and stepped away to answer. Is this Hannah Baker? A gruff male voice. Who's asking? Frank Davis. I was your father's friend. We need to talk, but not over the phone. Meet me at Dolores Park, near the tennis courts. 1 hour. Before I could respond, he hung up. I stared at my phone, suspicion warring with hope. How did he know to call me now? Was this a trap set by Victoria and Lawrence? But I had no other options. I thanked the bank manager and left, making sure no one followed me as I took a deliberately convoluted route to the park. Frank Davis was nothing like I'd imagined. In his 70s, with a weathered face and alert eyes, he sat on a bench watching tennis players. I cautiously approached, clutching my pepper spray in my pocket. You look like Richard, he said without turning. He had that same cautious approach when something seemed off. I remained standing. How did you know my father? College roommates, then business partners for a while, before Victoria came into the picture. He finally turned to look at me. She didn't like me. Said I was a bad influence because I kept telling Richard to get a prenup. Something about his directness felt authentic. I sat down, keeping space between us. He didn't listen, I said. No, but he did other things to protect you. Frank glanced around. Did you get into the box? I shook my head. It's frozen. Lawrence put a hold on everything. Frank cursed under his breath. They're moving faster than I thought. Do you have the watch? My hand instinctively covered my bag. How do you know about that? Because I helped Richard hide the documents in it 3 weeks ago, when he realized how bad things were getting. Frank leaned closer. Did you find the compartment? Yes. There was a note and a key. Good. The key isn't just for the bank box. It also opens the hidden safe in Richard's office at home. Behind the painting of the Golden Gate Bridge, my mind raced. I can't exactly walk back in there. Victoria changed the locks and security codes. Frank smiled for the first time. Richard thought of that too. I have a set of emergency keys and the master code. He never gave them to Victoria. He reached into his jacket. And I have something else. Proof that the will they're using is a forgery. He passed me an envelope. Inside was a copy of what appeared to be another will, dated just 3 weeks before Dad died, much more recent than the one Victoria had shown me. This is the real will, Frank said. Richard left the house to you, along with controlling interest in his company. Victoria gets a reasonable settlement, but nothing close to what she's trying to take. The problem is, this is just a copy. The original is in the safe deposit box, I finished. And in the wall safe. Your father was careful. He left identical copies in both places. Frank checked his watch. We need to act tonight. Victoria's planning to start removing furniture tomorrow. Once the house is emptied, we may never recover what's in the safe. I stared at the copy in my hands. Why would my father let this happen? Why not just tell me? Frank's face softened. He was trying to protect you from Victoria. She threatened to harm you if he didn't change his will. He pretended to comply while creating these backup plans. The cancer progressed faster than any of us expected. My eyes burned with tears. All this time, I'd wondered if Dad had really cut me out, despite our close relationship. Now I understood. He'd been fighting for me until the end. So, what's the plan? I asked, wiping my eyes. Tonight, 2 a.m. Victoria takes sleeping pills, and the girls never wake up before noon. Frank handed me a small piece of paper. My number? Meet me a block away from the house at 1:45. Wear dark clothes. We go in, get the documents, and get out. It sounded like something from a heist movie, not my real life. But the alternative was letting Victoria steal everything my father had worked for, everything he'd wanted me to have. I'll be there, I said. The house looked different at night, more imposing, almost ominous, with most of the windows dark. Frank was already waiting when I arrived, exactly on time. Ready? He whispered. I nodded, though my stomach was twisted in knots. We approached from the back, through the garden gate that always squeaked, except Frank had thought to bring oil, silencing the hinges. He punched a code into the security panel, and the small light turned green. Richard never changed the master code, he explained. 1-0-2-5, your birthday. Something warm spread through my chest. Even in his security systems, Dad had kept me close. The key turned smoothly in the back door lock, and we slipped inside. The house was eerily quiet, with only the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway breaking the silence. We moved cautiously through the kitchen toward Dad's office, avoiding the creaky floorboard near the pantry that had given away my teenage sneaking attempts. Dad's office door was locked, but Frank had a key for that too. Inside, everything looked ransacked, drawers pulled out, paper scattered. Victoria had clearly been searching for something. Frank pointed at the large painting behind the desk. We carefully lifted it off its hooks, revealing the wall safe. It was small, the size of a hardcover book, with a simple keyhole. I pulled out Dad's brass key from the watch, and it slid in perfectly. With a soft click, the safe door swung open. Inside was a thick envelope, a small velvet pouch, and a USB drive. I grabbed everything, stuffing it into my bag as Frank replaced the painting. We had almost made it back to the kitchen when a light flicked on in the hallway. Who's there? Victoria's voice, slurred with sleep and medication. Frank pushed me toward the back door. Go. I'll distract her. But go. Get those documents to Patricia Winters at Winters Legal tomorrow morning. She's expecting you. Before I could argue, Frank stepped into the hallway. Evening, Victoria. Lovely night for a visit, isn't it? Her scream of rage followed me as I slipped out the back door and ran into the night, clutching my bag with its precious contents. Behind me, I could hear Frank's calm voice and Victoria's increasingly hysterical shouts. I didn't stop running until I was 5 blocks away, heart pounding and lungs burning. Only then did I check my phone to see a text from Frank, all clear. She called police. I left before they arrived. Meet tomorrow at Patricia's office. 9 a.m. Patricia Winters was nothing like Lawrence Stevens. Where he was sleek and polished, she was no-nonsense, with sharp eyes that missed nothing as she examined the documents from the safe. This is definitely Richard's signature, she confirmed, comparing it to other documents. And the will is properly witnessed and notarized. The one Victoria presented is a forgery, a good one, but still a forgery. Frank nodded. Can we move quickly on this? Absolutely. I'm filing emergency probate petitions today. With this evidence, plus the forensic handwriting analysis I'll order, we can get the fake will invalidated. She turned to me. What about the USB drive? I'd already checked it at the motel. Financial records. Dad was tracking how Victoria was siphoning money from his accounts for the past 2 years. There's also a video, Dad recording a statement about being pressured to change his will. Patricia smiled for the first time. That's the nail in the coffin. Victoria won't just lose the inheritance challenge. She could face criminal charges. I don't care about criminal charges, I said. I just want my father's wishes respected. Frank patted my hand. Your father would be proud of how you've handled this. I fingered the velvet pouch I'd found in the safe. Inside was my grandmother's engagement ring and a small note in Dad's handwriting for Hannah to build her own legacy when the time comes. What happens now? I asked. Now, Patricia said, we take the fight to them. 2 weeks later, I stood in the entryway of my childhood home, watching as Victoria and my stepsisters packed their designer suitcases under the watchful eye of Patricia's associate. The emergency probate hearing had gone exactly as Patricia predicted. The judge had not only invalidated Victoria's forged will, but had issued a temporary restraining order preventing her from removing anything else from the house, pending a full criminal investigation. Victoria wouldn't look at me as she dragged her luggage toward the door. Her face was blotchy without makeup, her movements jerky with suppressed rage. Only when she reached the threshold did she finally speak. "You think you've won, but you have no idea how to run his company. You'll fail, and I'll be waiting." I didn't take the bait. Instead, I picked up Dad's repaired pocket watch from the entry table where I'd placed it that morning after getting it fixed. The difference between us, Victoria, is that I'm not afraid of imperfections or challenges. Dad taught me that our flaws and how we overcome them tell our real story. She flinched at the echo of Dad's philosophy. For a moment, something almost like doubt crossed her face before hardening back into hatred. Without another word, she walked out, her daughters trailing behind. The door closed, and for the first time since Dad's death, the house felt peaceful. Frank came in from the kitchen, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "So," he said, handing me one, "what are you going to do with Richard's company?" I took a sip, looking around at the home that was truly mine now. "First, I'm going to learn everything about it." Dad always said I had a mind for numbers better than his, actually. And then I smiled, feeling a sense of purpose that had been missing since Dad's diagnosis. Then I'm going to build something that would make him proud. Something that helps people who've been taken advantage of, like Victoria tried to do to me. Frank nodded. "Richard always said you had his vision, but not his blind spots. That's why he left you everything. He knew you'd build something better." Outside, the San Francisco fog was lifting, sunlight beginning to stream through the windows. I walked to Dad's office, my office now, and placed his watch on the desk. Sometimes broken things could be repaired. Sometimes broken promises could be kept after all. I opened my laptop and began to read the company files, ready to honor the legacy my father had entrusted to me. Not with blind devotion to how things had always been done, but with the courage to fix what was broken and build something stronger. Just as Dad had taught me. What would you have done in my place? Would you have fought for your inheritance, or walked away to avoid the family conflict? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.